who will be the most improved team? And you're going to go off wins and losses from a year ago. And right now in the Mountain West, that part of the country, whoa, they're increasing their lead. Stephanie's going to shut this bad boy down in about 40 minutes.
We got 42 minutes left on this puppy where the Broncos at plus 425 are your leader currently, 45.6% of you,
right.
27.2% of you believe the Bears going to make a big improvement. We have seen a little bit of a rally for the Texans,
Double
not
digits.
quite there. 10.2% at 7-1, and the Colts at 8-1 get 17%.
Nobody's listening to my Colts. I'm looking at the mustache Gardner Minshew, and I'm going, it's a bad division. All due respect to Duval, but it's not a division that scares you.
Yeah.
And I look at the Colts roster, comparatively speaking to the Bears. Broncos, by the way, have a good defense. They should be able to play some defense if Russ can't fully cook. So that should – I understand why America is going in that direction, but I don't think the Colts should be overlooked, and I feel like they are so far in this poll.
I like the Bears in this one. I think that the Bears are the obvious choice, and I think that it's kind of rightfully so. I mean, it's in a division that we think is going to be a lot more competitive than in years past, and maybe even down if you want to go to that, if you want to go that direction with everything. And then you kind of look around and you say, wow, this team has a decent amount of talent whenever you kind of look. I mean, if you believe that Justin Fields can take at least a minor step forward
He's
as a
have
passer,
to.
right? The offensive production increased last year, not necessarily because he was a better passer, but because they were calling plays that were more, let's just say, more in line with his skill set, right? And
They won week 1 against the Niners with his legs.
And so they were able to do that a little bit later in the season. And the Bears offense looked like a little bit better, but the passing metrics weren't necessarily that much better. Now, you could also argue in that same breath that he had no one to throw to, and that's it's a fair argument.
They've upgraded.
Now that argument shouldn't be there. Listen, you bring in DJ Moore, who is a legitimate one in the NFL. Is Chase Claypool any good? We'll find out. But, he's now been there a year.
They paid for him a little bit in draft capital.
Should have been able to figure out the offense a little bit better. Should have gotten some rapport with Fields, you would like to think. And now you can use Darnell Mooney as a true number 3, which is where he needs to be anyway. They've got 3 really good offensive linemen, so he shouldn't be running for his life. Cole Kmet is arguably a top half tight end in the league, maybe even has a potential to be a top 10-ish type guy from the tight end position. And so I don't really mind kind of what the Bears have going on. They've got some talent on the defensive side as well. And in a division in which we're kind of like, could kind of go any direction here, increasing on those 3 wins. You got to think, even if they're 2 games under 5, even if they get to 7 wins, they're still winning 4 more games, right? They could still go under their projected win total in the season, which again is sitting at 7.5. If you want to go bet it, they could go to 7. They still be under that, but still increase by 4 wins. Are the Broncos getting to 9 wins? Are the Texans getting to 8? I can tell you right now, the Texans are not getting to 8
no.
wins. So that's not happening. So, it's where are we? What are we kind of looking at here from one of these teams that can really compete? Now, listen. If Anthony Richardson by game 4 has figured some stuff out in the NFL and just needed a lot of time and a lot of coaching or something, the Colts could certainly be dangerous. As you mentioned, there's some talent on that team.
I actually like the Colts at 8-1 as a 4-win team a year ago in this market. But I will tell you, if you're a Derek Carr stan, I don't know if there are any out there, plus 850 for the Saints that were a 7-win team in a improving division. We believe Carolina's going to be better because of Bryce Young. Obviously, Atlanta feels better. We'll find out what Bijan Robinson is for them as their top 10 pick. But if you do like Derek Carr and the Saints at plus 850, we talk about, again, kind of looking at the other side of the ball. They do have pieces on defense. Now, I don't know if they're as good of pieces per se as Denver's, but are they playable to be a 11-win team, which would be, again, in that marketplace we're talking about with the Bears, if the Bears are a 7-win team? Are they 4 games better because Derek Carr is now the quarterback?
Yeah, and one of the things we do, talk about a lot on here is the fact that a lot of times there will be a team that greatly overachieves or greatly underachieves, right? And so we're trying to look for that team that is potentially has the possibility to greatly overachieve. And so the one that is at least fairly interesting to me, and it is a tough division, but you can't argue whenever it comes to talent standpoint and and all that. Like the Browns sitting there at 7-10 last year. Could the Browns be a 12-5 team, and would that really blow anyone away? I don't think it would, right? I mean, if they got to 12-5, I don't think anyone would be like, oh my God, I can't believe this. You have 3 years ago a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Now we don't know.
They pay him like a top 5 quarterback.
Like we don't necessarily know what he is today. We assume he's going. He can't be worse than he was last year. No. So he's only going to be better than what he was last year. And they do have real talent on both sides of the ball. Like, I mean, they have a true legitimate workhorse number 1 running back. They have receivers. They have a defense that, again, if they can stay healthy, the problem has been health on the defensive side. But if they can stay healthy on the defensive side, should put out a top 12, top 10-ish type defense as well. And so, it's not out of the realm of possibility, I think, in my opinion, if this team kind of is one of those teams that greatly, greatly, greatly overachieves because we look and go, oh, we forgot about Deshaun Watson. By the way, he's really good at football.
When I look at the quote-unquote good teams, and it's a reason why they're going to be hundreds, 150. The Chiefs, by the way, are 150-1 because they were a 14-win team a year ago. They're not going 17-0.
And even if they do, it wouldn't.
You can still lose the bet.
You can still lose the bet. Yes, it wouldn't even matter. Yeah.
That's insane, right? To look at that. But is there potentially, like the Chargers were a 10-win team? We just talked about them maybe having in the marketplace for the most, could be the best offense in the league this year. Could they go from 10-7 to 15-2? I mean, it seems ludicrous, but that'd be a 5-game improvement. Let's if you want to try to take a long shot at 100-1, are they good enough to give you 14-3? Are they good enough to be that, to at least put you in position for that 101 to catch?
I think you were more knocking on the door when you were kind of looking at these teams in the NFC South, right?
Yeah.
Like you mentioned the Saints, even like a Falcons, even like any of these teams where you look at the Falcons, if they're in what could be the worst division in football, right? I mean, like we're prepared to say that the NFC South could be the worst division in football.
At least a very parity-stricken
because
division.
when you put these teams up against most of the other teams just on paper, now you still got to play the games and we'll see what happens on the field. But like, again, just on paper as we enter the season, these are inferior rosters to the majority of the other teams out there. And so you take a look and you say, okay, Falcons were 7-10. Because of the weakness of this division, could they go 11-6? And if they go 11-6, is a 4-game improvement enough to win this bet, right? I mean, that's kind of what you kind of have to ask yourself.
And you have to handicap it for the division that you have 6 games in the quote-unquote weak division. So which team has the higher capability of going 4-2, 5-1 in said division? Like when the Cowboys were getting those number 1 seeds at the NFC East, they were beating up on a bad NFC East. The NFC East is not bad anymore. Yeah. Right? So that division is flipped. Like, could the South be the next division to flip? Right. And that's what you got to ask yourself. If these teams are really improving, can you really beat up if you're the good team? If you're the Saints and you think you're the good team, now you have Derek Carr. Are you really going to go 5-1 in the division? If so, it could be a playable number at plus 850. But I don't know that that's going to be the case because it feels like they're all kind of growing at the same time.
I think where we're getting with this, though, is we kind of feel like you need to be like a 4-win improvement in order to be the team that we would really be looking at here. Because we're saying, okay, Bears, win total set at 7.5. Even if they get under that, it would still be getting them to 7. So it's kind of like
playable.
It's kind of like a 4-win swing here. Do the Broncos get to 9 wins this year? If Russ is not trash, which he might be trash, but if Russ is not trash, I think it's within the realm of possibility that they could possibly get to 9 wins, so long as he's not garbage. I believe in Sean McVay. I believe in Sean Payton. I believe that he is still one of the best coaches in the league. So
one flyer we would tell you to not take: don't play the Raiders. I know it's a long 40-1, and you're going, well, they could win. No, they can't. They won't.
No, they're not going to. The Titans aren't going to win 11 games.
Right. It's easier to exclude teams right away. By just doing the math that you think you got to be 4 wins improved to be in the conversation. It might not be good enough. Because you mentioned it, Mac, there could be an outlier that wins 5 more games, and we don't know which team that is yet.
I had an alt under, just to put it into perspective, right? Like I had an alt under on the Seahawks last year because I thought they weren't going to get to 4 wins.
Everybody thought they would be
under 3.5, right? And then they went 9-8. So I mean, it typically tends to be a really big overachievement, and so it will be one of these teams that does that 4 or 5 game kind of improvement here. So that's kind of the baseline we're setting.
The Jets might be the one that people go 7-10 a year ago. Aaron, good defense, 11-6. Is that? By the way, I've played under on their win totals and don't pass line for the playoffs. So I'm not one of those people, but I can understand that logic if you really think everything's going to click year one in New York.
Yeah, no, I get it. No, I totally get it. I mean,
that makes sense.
If he is as big of an upgraded quarterback as we believe that he is to be over what they put out
Aaron
there.
Rodgers.
Second year with Garrett Wilson, they improved on the secondary options at receivers. Well, like they're definitely they're past to that getting there is what we're saying.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.